Welcome to Buffzone. My name is Ringo. This is Neill Woelk. We cover the University of Colorado football team for the Daily Camera newspaper. The 2009 season is over. Neill, a week ago we sat here and thought we'd be talking this week about who the next coach would be at the University of Colorado. Turns out the next coach is going to be the same coach this year, Dan Hawkins.
Welcome to the new coach, same as the old coach. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Yep, Dan Hawkins is coming back. I think it was a big surprise to most people that had followed the program. Mike Bohn made the announcement on the day before the Nebraska game. The bus proceeded to go out and beat Nebraska in favor of the news. Oh, that's not what happened, is it?
No.
Doggone it. Okay.
Not quite.
Okay, the bus went out and proceeded to lose to Nebraska in
Shocker.
in a shocker to the Huskers. 28-14, gave up 2 return touchdowns. Story of the year. Here's the amazing stat of the year for you.
Okay.
Offense versus offense. Just when the offenses are on the field, Colorado outscored the Big 12 North and South champions combined. But when you throw in punt returns, interception returns, kick returns, all those kind of fun things, a little bit different story.
That's also the story of the year.
That's the story of the year.
Shoulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that is the whole story of the year right there. Is just the mistakes that plagued this team from very first game were there at the very end of the season.
So my impression of this situation is that if the president of the university system, Bruce Benson, didn't step in and say, we're not going to get rid of the football coach because we have some lobbying to do, after the first of the new year, and we need the support of the state legislature, and it's going to be kind of hard to do that if we're writing $3 million checks to pay a football coach, not the coach. My impression is if that didn't happen, Dan Hawkins would not be the coach here anymore. What do you think?
My impression is that they might have presented here are several different scenarios. This is the way we can make this work. If we keep him, if we let him go, and all these things. And my impression is that the chancellor and the president, they said, okay, this is the scenario we're going to take. We're going to keep Dan Hawkins because money is involved. Now, even Mike Bohn has come out and said, yeah, money is always involved in big-time football or big-time athletics. He said that was not the overriding factor. I still get the feeling that money was the overriding factor with this decision, because I think Bruce Benson and Phil DeStefano and to an extent Mike Bohn realized that writing $3 million checks is not a great political move if you're going to go to the legislature, as you said, and plead poverty. It's hard to plead poverty when you're writing $3 million checks.
Okay, so this situation is basically done and over with for the time being, at least. Dan Hawkins will be here as the football coach in 2010, maybe beyond that if he has a successful season next year. What has to happen in the meantime for him to kind of get back on the right side of some of the fans that he's found a way to turn off, either through some of his comments this season or just purely by the results that have been produced on the field?
I don't think Dan Hawkins is going to convince a whole lot of fans of anything until next September the 4th. I think that's when Dan Hawkins can start to maybe convince people that he can do the job here. I think between now and then, they've heard 4 years of Dan Hawkins talking about what he wants to do and how he wants to succeed. I think they're waiting now. I mean, now I think the vast majority of people that are unhappy with the decision, I think they're waiting until September 4th at Invesco Field.
So what you're saying is you're not expecting 18,000 people at the spring game?
I'm guessing there may not be 18,000 people at the spring game.
Yeah, me either.
No, I just think, I think it's a matter of Dan Hawkins and his staff. They have to win some football games next year.
You mentioned his staff already. There's been a report that Eric Keesaw, the offensive coordinator, who is the offensive coordinator for the first time this year, or was, is being looked at as a possible head coaching candidate at Portland State, where he once played quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then I've also heard that offensive line coach Denver Johnson might be fooling around with the idea of taking over at Murray State, possibly. So right there, I mean, if those two things come to fruition, you're talking about possibly the 4th offensive line coach in 5 years for Dan Hawkins. You're talking about another change in offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator.
Right. no one's saying that those things are definitely going to happen, but they could, and there could be other changes in the staff. You already know that Ashley Ambrose is now going to take over coaching wide receivers. Bob Foster is no longer going to be on the staff coaching outside linebackers and doing his quality control stuff, so that'll be a change there. There could be other changes coming, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any players who decide, maybe between semesters or at the end of the spring semester that they want to, change programs too. That seems to happen at least,
there's been a steady rate of attrition. Yeah, there
right.
has been.
So those are problems that are going to be confronting Dan Hawkins too in the offseason.
I don't think changing coaches is a problem, for starters. I think Dan Hawkins needs to change his staff. I think Dan Hawkins needs to make some significant changes in his staff. I think he needs to make some significant changes in coaching philosophy and maybe just basic offensive and defensive philosophy.
The reason I say it's a problem, though, is because it's the same deal in recruiting. It's the same problem in recruiting. Everybody knows the situation here. Everybody knows that Dan Hawkins just spent an entire season, with speculation around his job security, and while he's been given another season, there's no guarantee beyond that. And there's no guarantee beyond that for any coach, really, but in Dan's situation, it's obvious dicey that he has to have some success next year. And so when you're going out there, if you're having to replace an assistant coach or two or three or whatever, who are you really going to get that's going to want to put their neck on the line to come join a staff that might be in place for just 1 year? Same with recruiting. When you're out there selling your program to some of these kids, one of the things they're going to be asking you is, how do I know you're going to be the coach there? And part of the reason I really want to come to Colorado is to play for you, and I don't know that you're going to be the coach there.
Yeah, I don't think that's a really difficult situation. The coaching world is so fluid anyway. I mean, it's in Dan Hawkins' words, it's liquid, and coaches move back and forth every year. There are enough coaches out there that I think you can find quality guys that would come in here thinking. And if you take a look at this situation, say, okay, if they actually think they can turn it around, they will be here for more than 1 year. If they don't think they can turn it around, they're not going to come anyway. So I think that you can talk to a coach, to an assistant coach, and I think you have to change this staff, and I think you have to change a lot of things. And I think that if he does that, he has a chance to be